Hello and welcome to the second edition of the Roundtable. I'm so excited to be here. This, of course, is with the Nick Rodriguez podcast. I'm so glad to have Jacqueline Askin, Jade Davis, and TaQuon Marshall join us today. We're going to do a little introduction before we go and get started, but I just wanted to say thank you guys so much. We had such a blast with the first one with Maya and Haley Clark and Rod Simba. I truly recommend you check out this one and the last one as well. So before we go ahead and get started, we're going to do a little introductions. Jacqueline, will you go ahead and get us started, please?
Yes. Hi, I'm Jacqueline Askin. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm a current volleyball player at Bowling Green State University.
What's going on, guys? I'm TaQuon Marshall. I was a quarterback at Georgia Tech from the 16 season to the 2018 season.
Hi, guys. My name is Jade Davis. I'm originally from Kennesaw, Georgia, and I played basketball at the University of West Florida.
Hey, guys. Of course, I'm your host, Nick Rodriguez. I graduated from the College of Charleston, and I'm so glad to be joining you guys here today. We're going to go ahead and start with Jacqueline Askin. She's going to go ahead and introduce her topic, and then we're all going to chime in and understand her topic even more. So, Jacqueline, you can go ahead and get it started, please. Thank you so much.
Okay, so my topic is kind of more personal to me, especially being a senior still in college volleyball. But my topic is fall seasons being postponed to the spring and kind of how I've been struggling with it a little bit. And I know my peers from other colleges have, and my peers from my college. And I don't know, I kind of just wanted to get advices for ways to stay motivated for the spring season. And then also something that just happened too, another curveball is, it's going into the spring, our new season, but now we're eligible for a sixth year, so we could technically play in the fall, either at this school or transfer or whatnot. So I kind of had been a little bit stressed trying to figure that out, or if I just want to be done after the spring and just figure out a job or whatnot. But yeah, that's basically my topic.
I feel like I'm removed from college sports right now, so I can only imagine how tough it is, just going through this whole ordeal. Like, I personally wouldn't want to be in this situation that a lot of you guys are in, but I think the main thing is you just have to make sure your mental space is in the right area, just so you're not, for me personally, in my opinion, I don't think you should really be stretching yourself out too much, because one, the fall for you is going to be in an off season, really. That's what it is, except it's just not in the spring. Now it's in the fall. So, now you have the opportunity to really focus on your academics like you would in your off season in the spring. So you can focus on your academics, and then everything else will fall into place, and just see how things work in the spring. If you want to come back for another year and play at Bowling Green, or if you want to transfer, then, you'll be able to decide that after you play the season. But I honestly don't think too far ahead on it, just because once you start doing that, then you're going to put a lot more stress on yourself than you need to be at 20, 21, 22 years old. And you don't need all that stress right now. You're just a student athlete just trying to live the dream, for sure. So don't stress it too much. Just kind of enjoy the process, embrace everything that's going on right now with COVID, and just let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, I'm interested in hearing a little bit more about how the sports teams are handling it, because I'm also removed from university a couple of years. So I'm wondering, are you guys practicing and, like TaQuon mentioned, treating it as an off season and doing trainings with mask on, not with mask on, don't have to call out your school, or are you guys completely not participating in any kind of training?
No, so we are training, and we do have masks. We have neck gaiter masks that go around our neck, and then we can pull it up if we're not 6 feet apart. But yeah, it's basically now a spring. So we started off at 20 hours before season was postponed, and now we're back at 8 hours. I'm pretty sure next week we're back at 20 hours again. But yeah, so it's basically like a spring. We're still practicing and working out, but now there's COVID tests weekly, and that thing's different. And then also we have to kind of stay within our bubble. So our bubble is our team. So we can't really hang out with other athletes unless it's socially distanced outside and under 10 people. And then we can't go home as well. So it's we're kind of just here. And then all of our classes now are on Zoom, basically.
Yeah.
But
okay, that changes it a little bit too. You can't help but to worry a little bit. I mean, of course, it is out of our control, and for the most part, of course, you don't want to just go through the motions, but you can only do what's ahead of you right now, which is training hard, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. So in spring, they're predicting that you guys can play games. Is that what the status is?
Yeah. So as of now, we're going to have like a shorter season in the spring. Like I think max would be 16 matches.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I'm agree with TaQuon. You can only kind of think about what's immediately in front of you and training hard, because you have a season to play in spring, and it's your senior season, right?
Yeah.
Got to go all out for the senior season. Even if, say, turns out you guys can't play, you still got to mentally prepare for those games, because it is coming up. And then after, I'm sure TaQuon can maybe relate, like how you feel after your senior season. After your senior season, you're either like hungry, like, ooh, I want more of this. Or you're like, ooh, I'm done. I'm full. For me, I was full. I was full of basketball. So I'm like, I don't want to play professional, anything. But it kind of depends on after you play those games, how you feel.
Yeah, that's very true. Where would you say your mental space is right now? Like, where are you at mentally?
I think I've kind of I think when we first initially went into quarantine in the spring, I kind of thought about all the stuff that happened now. So I felt like I kind of already felt the emotions that I would feel going into fall, because I thought about if our season got canceled or whatnot. And so I came in to this year really positive, and I live with the other seniors on my team. And so we've been all helping each other and trying to stay positive. But lately I felt kind of more sad. So I feel like, I don't know if I've maybe been avoiding it and not fully processed it, but I have been trying to stay in the moment, talking to my family and whatnot. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely tough just because, the way y'all are doing it right now, I know me personally as a student athlete, obviously, I really was focused on my particular sport, and I had to go through my classes and stuff. But I used to tell my mom all the time, because she always used to wonder why I would do other things on the weekends besides just rest, which is what you normally should do.
Right.
But I was like, Mom, I practice all week. I don't get to see anyone. I go to the facility and I go back home. I do all my work. That's
right.
basically what I do. So on the weekends, I like to go out sometimes or hang out with some friends. So just being a student athlete and not being able to do that, really, you're just hanging out with your roommates who are also your teammates who you also see every single day. It's definitely a tough space to be in.
Yeah, just to kind of...
Oh, go ahead, Nick.
Okay, yeah. Just to kind of jump in, I think everything with COVID-19 and everything like that is just so crazy because it's ever changing. It's not like you have one answer and then that's how you adjust to it, like a game plan or anything like that. It's ever flowing. So one day, like you were saying, next week might be a different schedule or something like that. So I think that might be, I'm speaking as not a former, student athlete. So I can only imagine, you guys are so routine based, how if things are changing every week, every day, based on whether you're going to play, whether you're not, the spring, an extra year, there's already added stressors to students, student athletes, and then you add on COVID-19. I can just only imagine the amount of stress that you might have. It's completely normal.
Mm-hmm. And Jacqueline, I can't, we all are saying, I can't imagine going through this being an athlete. This is so new. And one day you can give other people advice if there's ever another pandemic, how to get through it. But we're not in it, honey, like you are. So we'll be asking you for advice one day.
Yeah, we're definitely looking from the outside in, because what you guys are going through it's very tough. And it's still kind of hard for me to process how they're at the college level, how they're keeping everything, safe. Since I played football, just looking at some of the conferences cancel and
right.
some of the conferences not canceling, and I know half of it's because of money. I know how much revenue football brings in, that also allows other sports to be able to play during their time of the year. So it's definitely a tough situation. It's almost it's really I wouldn't say it's a lose-lose, but it's very close to it. Because, I mean, you want everyone to be safe. Like, don't get me wrong. I love football, and I love being able to watch football for months at a time until, the winter comes. But, in the back of your mind, you're just always like, well, you just hope everyone's being safe, and you hope they can come up with a way for them to be able to play their respective sport and be safe at the same time and not have any problems. Because at the end of the day, like, I hope you don't, but if you did come down with COVID and then your roommates come down with COVID and then it just happens to spread throughout, your team, and then you never, like, at the end of the day, of course you guys are in a bubble, but you don't know what your teammates are doing when they go home. Like, they could be doing whatever it is. So you just never know. And I think that's the hardest part with college, because we're teenagers at that point. Like, of course you take it serious, but at the same time, it's almost like, okay, am I willing to sacrifice all of this stuff that I supposedly was coming to college for in order just to play a sport? Especially for you, like, there is professional volleyball, but like, it's not the same as, professional baseball, basketball, and football, obviously in men's sports, but like, it's not, keeping a roof over your head at all times. And, it's not bringing in this large lump sum of money. So it's almost like, is it really worth me not going anywhere, like doing all this quarantine? Like, that's just some of the things that, I've thought about. Like, if I was in the position of a college athlete, I'm like, well, dang, all the stuff that I enjoyed doing, like having a social life, that would be completely gone. Like, I would have to sacrifice all of that just to play a game on Saturday with maybe no fans, which is a lot of the reason you play is, not only for yourself, but you like to play for the fans too. So it's just a tough situation to be in.
On the positive side, Jacqueline, is there anything that, because I think obviously there's a lot of, you're in a difficult circumstance and everyone has their own struggles, with, COVID-19, but a lot of times there's, or some people have been able to, learn a new craft or, build relationships that they didn't think they'd be able to because they're at home, because you're with your teammates. Is there, a positive spin to it too, where you've been able to, have kind of that? I mean, at least you're with, you're living with other seniors too. Has there been some positive moments that you can take away also?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the biggest positive is usually we come in the summer early with the freshmen and we get to know them a little bit, but we don't know them that well. And then we start the season. But now we get a whole basically semester to get to know the freshmen. So then when it does come spring or next fall, our team's already going to be so much more meshed and close together. And I think that'll help us a lot on the court. And then also some other positives is I feel like in general, my team has gotten a lot closer because we're all struggling with the same things. Right. So we've been doing things that we normally wouldn't have done, like kind of like with the social life, since we can't really do that. We've been fun, like even like I brought my Wii and we've been playing the Wii and I hadn't played that since I was a kid. So that's like something we've been doing that's enjoyable. Or like I've been reading and I enjoy that, or watching movies together, things that we never normally did because we'd be busy with other things. We now have time to do together.
Nice. Yeah. I know when my team, there's been years that we didn't do team bonding before, and there's years that we did like a whole trip, and you can really tell the difference in the results of the season from the seasons we did team bonding and we didn't do team bonding, and you guys are forced into team bonding. So hopefully, those results will show of that closeness. And if not, you guys just made some good friends.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Well, and that's true too, though, because like connections are the things you're going to remember most too. I feel like after sports, you'll remember the big games, but the connections.
You won't forget them, for sure.
Well, Jade and TaQuon, like you guys spoke a little bit about it. How do you think you guys would be handling your senior seasons if it was COVID-19 when you were playing your last year?
Go ahead, Jade.
I was about to say, I'll let TaQuon go first.
I can go. For me personally, depending on how like my season went my senior year, like since the NCAA is literally giving you another free year.
Right.
I've thought about it. I was like, well, I think I may come back, like just depending on how I played. But on top of that, like I would definitely get my master's, like 1000%. Like, like I think back now and I'm like, well, man, if I had a redshirted, I would have been able to get basically a free master's from Georgia Tech. And like, not a lot of people can say they have a master's from Georgia Tech. So like, that's one of the things I was like, well, you know, if I had the opportunity, then I'd be able to get my master's. But it's definitely a tough situation because I'm a big family guy. So like being in Jacqueline's situation, not being able to, you know, be around my family like that would have for sure been tough. Cause like my parents only missed maybe 2 games in my 4 years. And one of them was in Ireland and another one was during me and my mom's birthday at Notre Dame my freshman year. So like the rest of the time, like I literally saw my family all the time. So I think that's one of the tougher parts. But I mean, it's kind of hard to say because like I'm not in that situation, but that's just kind of looking from the outside in what I possibly would do. Right. So yeah.
The social aspect of it, I would have been okay with because I was always the girl just kind of in the dorm after practice anyways, doing my schoolwork, going to practice. And I always kind of liked practices. Like I'm a hard practice player and I go hard in the games too. But to me, I mean, I would be okay with the circumstances and I wouldn't necessarily want another year. I kind of mentioned it earlier, how I just feel full up I feel filled from my basketball career. I didn't feel like I needed anything extra. And I'll probably talk about that more when I go into my topic, just, you know, my journey and how serious I took basketball from a young age. But I mean, of course, I can't say Jacqueline's the only one who's actually going through it. So of course I'm like, oh, I'd be fine. I'd be chilling, but I don't really know. But from what I think and my personality and how I was in my college, I think I would kind of just adapt to the circumstances. And I went to school away from my family, so I didn't see them often anyway. So.
Well, does anyone have any final thoughts before we move on to the next topic?
I do not.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And then we'll go ahead and move on to TaQuon's topic. So you can go ahead and introduce your topic to us.
Okay. So really what I wanted to talk about, and I think it kind of hits home with me because I've been lackadaisical with it, is about voting and registering to vote. Because me personally, like I've always looked at politics as something that was like, that doesn't really affect me. And, you know, like, I don't really care too much about it. And like all my friends would be talking about politics and what's going on in the world and what's going on with the government. And like, for me, I just kind of looked at it as like just another thing to just kind of skim over or just, you know, ignore it. But now that, you know, I've actually grown up a lot and like just seeing a lot of the stuff that goes on in the world. And it's made me realize like, okay, maybe like, not maybe like Quan, it's time for you to register to vote. Cause like I just registered to vote this past year and it's like, I don't know why I waited so long. Like just the small things can affect so much. And like me not like, I would always talk about, oh, well, maybe they should do this and maybe they should do that. But at the end of the day, it's like, if I'm not actually voting for it to happen, then me just talking about it isn't really doing much for anyone. So that's kind of the thing I really wanted to touch on is just to, you know, motivate people to register to vote and get other people to register to vote because it's actually a lot more important than, you know, we try to make it seem, especially at a young age, because we don't really deem it that important or prioritize it in our lives. But, you know, in order for our generation to really, you know, make change and get things rolling, we have to put the right people in office and get the right people in there that can make better decisions for us as a whole.
Yeah, that's so good and convicting, as I myself have yet to register to vote. And, you know, like you said, it's kind of one of those things that you think it's for other people. Like, okay, that's what other people do. They go and vote, and older people that maybe they know who to vote for. But it's tough because I can come up with a list of 1,001 reasons why I don't vote, or I don't know how to vote, or how do I know who's the right candidate? And I mean, that's just all excuses because like anything else, you don't know how to do. Okay, I don't know how to make a blueberry pie. I Google it. So there is no excuse. You can find the answers. And I'm talking to myself here. But TaQuon, what would you say, like you can answer either of these two questions. What would you say led you? What was the main pushing factor that made you say, okay, this past year, last year, it's time for me to vote. And then, or also, what was your first step in registering to vote, or what was your first step in like researching?
Well, two of my good buddies, they are looking into politics and telling me what's going on in the political world all the time. But also, my teammates, actually, they do a really good job of like spreading the awareness of, registering to vote. And, and then plus we've had a lot of stuff go on in 2020. I mean, not only the pandemic, but we just had a lot of racial injustices and things like that. And just seeing the people with high power, it's almost be like, let's shrug it off. Like some stuff like that is just like, wow. Like, is there something that I can do and like other people can do to help this, or help us be in a better situation or put us in a better situation as a whole? And then I looked at myself, I'm like, well, I'm not registered to vote. And then my teammates are like, well, if you aren't registered to vote, then everyone in here needs to be registered to vote. We have a big group chat that we use. And they're like, okay, well, if you're not registered to vote, then everyone in here needs to be registered to vote. So they just basically drop the link in there. And it's literally so easy. Like you can do it from your phone. You click on the link and you just register, like you put in all the information that it asks for. And it's basically like, that easy. Like in a couple weeks, you'll get like a confirmation that you're like registered or whatever. But that's as far as I've gotten right now. Of course, I have to look into more things as voting gets more near. So, that's just the beginning steps for me.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and jump in here too. Is I think voting, especially for young people, is similar to what you guys are saying. Is like, it's for the older folks, or what is one vote for me? How is that really going to change? Who's president, or what is that really going to change? But to me, like my mindset is, if enough people are thinking that way, then that will actually make a big difference, right? So like if the whole football team, or if the whole school, or the whole state is thinking, it's just one vote. Like there's millions of people voting. Why does mine really matter? And to me, another thing is like, it's such a, I know the three of us are in the United States. Of course, Jade is in Finland right now, but like as an American citizen, to me, is such a sense of pride to share your vote and say, I made a difference, or I tried, my candidate might have won or lost, but it's such an American thing, I think, to, cast your vote, cast your ballot in this democratic society. And like TaQuon is saying, there's so much going on in 2020 politically, and I'm not going to dive too deep into that, but I think you know what we mean. So I think voting is something that you can definitely do. And as TaQuon said, it's not very difficult to register. You can do it. And, we can make change. I think it's just getting everybody to get on board and making that change and, and making stuff happen, because there is a lot of stuff going on that shouldn't be happening in the United States. I'm not going to speak onto Finland, but a lot of stuff going on, and stuff that we can actually make a difference to. Like there's a lot, like I think, the Atlanta Hawks, for example, and several NBA teams are opening up their arenas to allow people to vote, right? So voting is, a natural right for, American citizens. And I think it's great for young people, especially to cast it, because I think a lot of politicians, one side or the other, oftentimes go, well, they're probably not going to vote, so we can just kind of depend on the elder crowd. So I think if we want to take, this election by our hands, we gotta step up, and we gotta vote, whichever side that you're on.
Yeah, I kind of agree too. Like I've been registered to vote since I was 18, but I always I voted for the presidential election then. But then kind of after that, I kind of put like politics aside and didn't ever do research anymore, like look into it. And then I agree during quarantine with everything that's been happening in 2020 with the racial injustice and whatnot, and watching documentaries and educating myself, especially the documentary 13th, and seeing how much difference the presidents have on different things that you didn't even realize. It made me even more aware and want to make sure that I'm researching correctly and getting all the facts from all the different sources, so that I can, even my vote can maybe make a difference, hopefully. And hopefully we can get more younger voters in there registered, ready to vote for this election, so that it's not just the elderly crowd.
Yeah, it's just so funny because like everyone always has the same mindset. It's always like, well, my little vote doesn't really,
Right.
do anything, or it might not do anything. And I mean, I've personally had that mindset. I'm like, what's my vote? Like, it's just one vote. Like,
just one.
But
right.
there's so many people that think the exact same way. It's ridiculous. Like, it's so many people that have that same mindset, and it's like all those people that have that mindset. We're also some of the people that complain about some of the stuff going on in politics, and why can't this be this way, and why can't that be this way? And it's like, well, if we just take the time to register to vote and put the right people in office that will make these changes for us, then maybe something will change. So it's laughable, really, that we all have this mindset with something that's so easy. Like, we're all on our phones, we're all on our computers. Like, it's so easy to just click, type in all the information that they need, and literally that easy, you're registered. So,
and I think, like, if you were to share something on your Instagram, no matter how many followers that you have, I think it's one of those follower things where if you shared someone's post or something that said I voted, or you wear the I vote sticker, and you walk by a friend or coworker or teammate, and they say, oh wow, you voted, or maybe internally go, you voted, you took a stand, you did something, again, not knowing what side that you particularly were on, but I think it shows a lot of courage too, to say, oh cool, he's a leader, she's a leader, they did it. They not just, talking the talk, they're walking it too, right? They're doing it. So they're making a statement. So I think having this conversation, and, when we share it and everybody shares it, or you share something on your social media, or you're talking about it, like you said yourself, TaQuon, like, you are influenced by your own good friends, right? Like, you wanted to, be inspired and, make a change and make a difference better for the world too, which is great.
Oh yeah.
Jade, did you have anything to add on this topic? Like, what's it like for you being in Finland? Has that changed your perspective on things too?
It's man, I don't know. It's different. The government here is a little bit more about the people and then of course, this is from my perspective, of course there's some people here who maybe think like the government isn't set up well. Sure. But, they care about the bottom line of people. They have aid. Healthcare is free, as you probably heard, European healthcare, blah, blah, blah. Education's free, all this stuff. But, and it's what's been interesting though, as though I don't really follow on with the politics here, but what is interesting is the view that these other countries have of America,
I was really going to ask you about that, like how the people in Finland view America.
Yeah, without dropping any.
Yeah,
without dropping any names. Sure. They do. Whenever a certain person's brought up, it's usually as like a joke. Like, are you kidding me? What's this person doing now? Oh, what's happening? And the COVID's still crazy. Oh, okay. So it's
Yep.
It's not the best view, but I mean, I don't know. That's just from my perspective when I talk to my families here and friends, and what I do see on the news and what I can read on the headline of a newspaper. It's usually like,
your perspective is not too far off from over here. It's
many
of us are thinking the same thing.
You're hitting the nail on the head.
Yeah. Which is part of the
But I'm appreciative as a foreigner here, as technically an immigrant, into this other foreign country. I'm valued like if I was a citizen, even though citizenship doesn't come for 4 more years. And my husband is Finnish, so he's from here. And, it's interesting to be that immigrant that so many people talk about in America, immigrants to America, like it's sometimes a negative thing, but it's just someone moving to a new place for whatever reason, but sometimes it's like immigrant has a negative connotation. Mm-hmm. But when we as Americans travel to other places, we don't want to use the word immigrant or foreigner, even though we're foreign when you go to another place. So anyways, that's another topic for another. Anyways.
No, I think that's like a really good way of putting it though. Because you are in fact an immigrant coming to Finland. How have you felt like the welcoming, I guess? Because I think you've mentioned before, not maybe necessarily today, but like a lot of your family is in the United States, and then your husband and his side of the family is in Finland. How has that transition kind of been, kind of moving to a different country?
Yeah, so I luckily visited 2 times before I made the big move here, and his family's super welcoming. And the reason we moved here is because he's playing basketball. So it's nice, even though I'm not playing basketball, I still have that basketball connection.
Yeah.
But overall, it's been good. I'm really easygoing and I adapt quickly. So it's good overall. And the cultures are different. Compared to Finland, Americans are kind of seen as like louder and maybe more interactive. And here it's kind of, you don't do more than you have to do. Like you don't have to put on a face. You don't have to go above and beyond for customer service for a tip because tips aren't a thing here.
Oh, wow.
But overall, the move was good and I'm happy and I miss my family and things about America, like mainly the food. But overall, I'm quite happy here. And I mean, I still feel quite convicted about voting because it's possible for me to vote because I'm a U.S. citizen. I can do mail-in voting.
Right.
And, just talking to you guys now, maybe I need to register.
I think
Yeah,
so.
definitely.
Yeah.
You should definitely do so as soon as we get off of this.
I know. And it's funny. I just got some mail today from the U.S. Embassy. And what did it say in there? You can vote. And what did I do? Go to the side. So it's a sign. Okay. I'll message you guys that I did it.
And Jacqueline, just to bring you back in the conversation, as a current student athlete, do you feel like if you were to, almost poll, or ask all your teammates whether they're registered to vote and they're going to vote, do you think most of them would say I'm registered, I'm going to vote? Or like, what do you think, that kind of dynamic would be?
I feel like it'd be half would maybe be registered, and I don't even know if everyone would vote necessarily because kind of what I mentioned, how I never really thought about politics that much after I voted my first time.
Right.
I feel like that's a similar way that my peers think, and not just in my sport, but in other sports. But my team's lucky because my coach is very into letting us know, like, you need to vote, you need to do this. Like, she educates us a lot on it, or will send us links. Like, she keeps sending us links about how poll workers are needed for the presidential election. So if people want to volunteer and do that so that more people can vote, which I actually looked into that. But since I'm in Wood County and I'm registered to vote in Kentucky, I can't be a poll worker here.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's something that's like needed right now too. So I think this year, especially with what's going on with, again, what we said, 2020, racial injustice, all the documentaries, educating yourself, I feel like I hope that we'll have a higher turnout in younger voters. And I'm actually the person on my team who, it's called the champion, but I'm working with the BGSU votes system here. And so I'm going to be showing my team a PowerPoint on how to register to vote and to do, and to let them know all the grades, everything like that. Yeah.
That's need that energy.
So.
And I can imagine, I mean, I went to school out of state, Jay went to school out of state. So I actually would kind of split here. Half of us went in state, half of us went out. So I think another thing, like for the whole voting thing, if you don't live inside, your state, it could be difficult for you to, actually vote, right? Like I mean, I went to Charleston, so that's South Carolina. So I was able to make the drive and anything like that. And also I think voting should be, a holiday. Tuesday, shouldn't have to go to work that day. But anyways, I was able to drive up, I'm sure if you have students who are from, California, or they're, from Texas, they're not close to home. I'm sure that makes a big difference too, even though you can, do mail-in voting too.
Yeah, I've done mail, or I registered to mail in my ballot, so they're sending it to me.
Good.
Yeah, I think another one of the things is like you were just touching on, Nick, is that, a lot of times when it comes time to vote, like people actually have things, like people are at work or people are in school. So, sometimes people, I wouldn't necessarily say it's an excuse, but it kind of is. Like people are always like, well, I'm busy or I have something to do. So I technically don't really have time to go vote or have time to do this. And I think that's, one of the things that a lot of people will do. But honestly, I think, like you said, I mean, maybe they should make it a thing where, you know, it's an all day thing and people don't have to really do anything but go vote.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, like you're saying, like if you have a job and, you know, a lot of people can't afford to miss a shift, or, you know, and sometimes like if we've seen on the news, you know, people are standing in line for hours and hours and hours, right? So not everybody can afford to completely miss a day of work. They might be let go. They might not make the amount of money that they need to, you know, pay rent or take care of the kids, or even just to get by, whatever the case may be, you know, right? Or maybe they just don't have, you know, the days off, right? So there's a lot of factors into it, but I hope all four of us are able to exercise our, you know, our right to vote.
Sounds good.
Now,
I have accountability partners now, so
yes, that's the other thing. We all hold each other accountable. Okay, so before we move on to Jade's topic, does anyone have anything else to add with the when it comes to voting?
thanks for bringing it up, TaQuon and Jacqueline. Wow, you guys are awesome. Jacqueline for being the ambassador on your team, TaQuon for having it on your heart to bring it up. Like, that's a great start. And it's so nice. Like, it's more inspiring when it comes from someone who's in y'all's age range, because you're like, man, if they can do it, I can do it.
100%.
So thank you, guys.
Definitely a lot easier when it's people that are close to your age, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's why this conversation is so important, because we're all, you know, in our 20s, you know, I'm 25, so mid 20s, right? So early to mid 20s. So I think that's, you know, the last thing I'll say is I think that's cool when you see people thinking about those kinds of things, having this kind of conversation. But yeah. All right. So I guess that wraps up topic number 2. Thank you again, TaQuon. And we'll go ahead and move on to number 3, which is Jade Davis.
Thank you so much. Okay, so thank you, Nick. My topic I wanted to speak on is along the lines of the rigidness and once you guys kind of chime in, maybe you have a better way to phrase it, but the rigidness and strictness of sport at a young age. So for example, I've been playing since, let's say I was 5, basketball. I've been playing basketball since a young age. And then as soon as it kind of hit that 8th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade year, you know, you're already thinking about, okay, I want to make the varsity team in high school. And then, okay, I want to play D1. I want to play college basketball. And from that kind of middle school up, well, at least for me, and I don't know about you guys, your life really does become that basketball. You want to go to extra training sessions before practice, after practice. You want to get to the gym early. You want to go to the gym every now and then on the weekends. And also the kind of culture that the coaches kind of put the pressure on you. And pressure's good. And I mentioned to Nick, sometimes you need that tough love. But I'm wondering, as we are becoming a generation that's more aware of the mental health that comes into it and what that kind of stress and pressure is doing when we don't have a different outlet, any different hobbies, because we don't have time for different hobbies, when we don't get to do an internship because we don't have time for internships. I'm wondering, is as the next generation of coaches, are we able to dial it back at all and be a little bit more understanding of the life outside of your sport when you're developing middle school, high school? Or is it needed that we have to go hard, sport home? You want a scholarship, sport. If you miss a practice, you're off. And I'm wondering what you guys feel about that and what your upbringing kind of in your volleyball and football was for you guys.
Okay, so I guess for me, it was similar. Like after 8th grade, you get to high school, and it's more, I don't know, not aggressive, but it's more strict. Like, don't miss a practice, don't do this, don't do that kind of thing. But I was actually lucky that my club director, he was our high school coach as well, and he made a point to, during our club, like, because it would go high school season and then right after you went into club season, and he kind of understood our social life too, not necessarily like going out or whatever, but just like having that time too. So something that he would do a lot, especially if you were a senior, if your prom happened to be on a tournament, he would like allow you to miss for your prom, because he was like, I understand that's a big part in a girl's life or a guy's life. Like, and that's not normally something that would happen. Normally it'd be like, oh, you're not going to prom, you're missing. I was lucky to have that aspect of like.
Well, for me, like you, Jade, I started playing sports in general at a young age. Like I started around 4. But like where I grew up, you had to be 5 in order to play in like the recreational. So I really had to wait a year, but it wasn't too much of a pressure thing for me. Like for me, I played for fun. Obviously I was very gifted and I was blessed with the talent. But for me, I just went out and played. Like I enjoyed playing all the sports I played. But then by the time I got to middle school, probably like 7th or 8th grade, that's when I was kind of like, okay, maybe I want to decide which 2 I want to continue with as I go to high school. I was almost close to giving up 1 completely, but I think I kind of had a change of heart when I got to high school. But even when I got to high school, like freshman year, like obviously one of my good friends who plays in the NFL now, like he was a senior when I was a freshman. So he had all the big time offers. He was ranked in the nation. Like he was ranked top 50 in the nation. And looking at that kind of pushed me to be like, okay, well, I think I definitely want to do this at the next level. Like obviously I want to play D1. That's what everyone wants to do. But I don't think I necessarily really put in any. I think I did a little bit, but not to the extent that some people that I see are doing now. Like I definitely did extra things, you know what I'm saying, to make myself better when the time came for me to play my sport. But also at the same time, I played sports year round. So like if you play basketball, baseball, and football, like that's the whole year. So you don't really have that much time to train specifically for one sport. You're just transitioning from one sport to the other. But probably around my junior year, that's when I was like, okay, maybe I need to do this extra or do some extra things just so I could get myself ahead of the curve because at that point you're not really you're competing with everyone in the country that's in your class. Like you're not just competing with the people that are in your state or locally in your area. You're competing against everyone that's going for that same offer or trying to go to that same school you're trying to go to. So you really have to, there's no way around it that you can't just not put in any extra work when it comes to, wanting to get to that next level. But I will say, I think what helped me out a lot is that my parents allowed me to actually enjoy growing up as a kid and enjoying the sport without making it seem like it was a job at 8 years old. Like I see a lot of kids now that, and social media is a lot different than it was when we were coming up. But I see a lot of kids now that are 7 and 8, they're running hills and they're doing all this ladder drill and doing all this cone work and all this agility stuff for football. And I'm like, I remember at that age, I was going to practice, and when I came home, I was playing video games. Mm-hmm. Like, I wasn't out here doing all this extra training and stuff. Like, I actually was able to enjoy it. But then once I got to high school, that's when football really, became a job. Like, that's when I realized it was, a job for me. Like, my junior year when I got my first offer and I was just competing and doing all this extra stuff. And then college is really a job. Like, that's literally all you do. And I feel like a lot of kids will get burned out before they even have a chance to make it there, or they won't live up to the expectation that's been set for them by either their trainer or their parents that's pushing them to be this top recruit or whatever the case may be in whatever sport it is. I feel like, sometimes you just want the kid to be a kid. And me personally, when I have kids, my kids are they can choose whatever sport they want, but I'm not going to force them to do all this extra stuff until they tell me like, hey, this is what I really want to do. Like, I want to take this step and I want to play at this level. Then I'm going to be like, okay, well, this is what you need to do in order to put yourself in the best situation to be successful. Until then, it's almost like, don't wash your, you're washing them up, literally.
Yeah. Right. So TaQuon and Jacqueline and Nick also, I'm wondering, so again, I had a good experience with basketball. I loved it, but I did feel like I didn't have space to do anything else. So you mentioned that you played multiple sports, and that's kind of what I'm wanting to touch on too, is that I want us as young athletes to have diversity, but sometimes, and Jacqueline, I don't know if you played more than one sport too, sometimes you kind of feel shamed in the one sport. Like, okay, you're going to baseball practice. while they have, well, I don't know when the seasons are, but you're going to baseball practice while there's preseason football training. So now you're kind of being shamed at football for missing a practice for baseball. Of course, like I said, I don't know the exact example, but I wonder, Jacqueline, did you play other sports at the same time as volleyball, or did you kind of stick to volleyball?
Before high school, I played basketball too, but then kind of like what you're talking about, it's like when you got to high school, it was like you had to decide and you had to pick one, and then that was your sport because there was no time to play both of them, or you weren't going to be the best at one of them, which is, I don't know, I kind of agree with what you're saying. It should be like you could play multiple, because I feel like that's how it used to be. Maybe like they would play multiple sports and then go collegiately, and then now it's like, because there's so much, because I did club volleyball and high school volleyball, and they would fall into each other. So as soon as high school ended, it was club time, and as soon as club ended, it was back into high school time. But there's no time for me to do other sports. But I don't know, I feel like that would have been an interesting experience to even have been allowed to play another sport at the same time or different seasons.
Yeah, because
so
it kind of...
You feel like you weren't allowed to play any other sport just because you had dedicated all your time into volleyball, or do you feel like you weren't allowed to play other sports because you didn't want to disappoint, I mean, I guess your coach who was coaching you at the time, or like what was the case with that?
I think I would have been allowed to play another sport, but then if I would have, I wouldn't be the volleyball player. Like I wouldn't have become as good of a volleyball player if I would have done that, because I wouldn't have had time to do club as well as high school. Like I would have had to choose to do one of them and not the other, just because they all ran at the same time. That makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I wonder if it depends on the actual sport too. And you guys, we're all collegiate athletes as well. Mm-hmm. So like playing more than one, like TaQuon mentioned he did, or like specializing in one. I wonder like if you played sports that are at least similar in like design, I guess, and like the skills that you would need, if that would help you, or like, because volleyball is a very unique sport. I can't really think of anything that would be, similar to that. Mm-hmm. So like, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but like if you played, I don't know, of course I can't think of an example, but like if you specialized in, like a golf or something, that might make a lot of sense. But like dipping into, because I know a lot of people who played football also played basketball too. So maybe there's something to that where, because volleyball is pretty unique. I don't know. Is there anything to that, or am I just kind of speaking out of turn?
No, you're right. That's definitely has something to do with it, because I know people have done like cross country and basketball, or like
right, exactly.
Maybe it's more
and stuff, right? Exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it is because for volleyball, it's like you don't have to do club, but you want to do club,
right, in
high school to like succeed and get a collegiate scholarship, kind of thing.
And to your point, Jacqueline, I know a lot of people who did track and basketball, like in high school, right, and they ended up playing. At the college level, other thing like that, because I think that should have been the example that I used. It's like a lot of running, conditioning. You want to be in shape. Obviously, there's no ball in track or cross country, but it's still that same type of activity, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So the main thing with the thing I'm trying to get us thinking about, which we all made, you guys all made really good points. And it's not necessarily just about the sport aspect. Like, I don't think every kid should be able to play 3 sports up until high school, because you maybe do need to specialize, but having something outside of your sport to go to, instead of being in your head at home about the practice you just had, and all you think about when you get home is basketball. And then when you're at school, you're thinking about the basketball practice coming up, but something that we're able to step outside of. For maybe TaQuon, he had his other sports that you could go to. Mm-hmm. For some people, like, for example, being in Finland, I coach a 15 and under team here, and the girls all have hobbies. And I'm like, oh my gosh, when I was 15, I was in high school and only playing basketball year round and training and stuff. And so like, I'm getting a little bit softer of a heart when they miss a practice because they have something else to do. And I'm like, you know what, that's how it should be. And I'm wondering, like TaQuon kind of mentioned, when he has kids, you want them to have fun with it. You decide. And I'm wondering so parents were probably thinking that, but how do the coaches need to change at all? Do the coaches have any kind of role in it? Or
I mean, I think as a coach, well, I mean, it's kind of hard for me to say because my dad coached me all the way up until I was in middle school. So like, but like the thing about it is like when it came like to football, like when we left football, it was like football was left there. Like, of course we talk about football in the car, and like when we get home, we might talk about a little football, and like even my mom loves football. So it's always going to be something talked about in the house, but I don't feel like it was really taken to the extreme, like, oh, you did this wrong or you did that wrong.
Right.
It wasn't anything like that. And I think, like you said, like it's good for people to have hobbies outside of their sport. I don't really think there's too much the coaches can do. Like if you're a coach, you're going to want to coach your student, or you're going to want to coach your athlete to get the best out of them. So,
okay. Yep.
I mean, I like a tough coach. Like, I think that brings the best out of me. But yeah, I mean, I think the coaching part should probably stay the same.
And it's what's going on at home, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I try to tell people now too, like you have to realize, bro, like one day, like your sport's not gonna, like you're not gonna be able to play. And like me and my buddies, we talk about that. Like a lot of I don't want to go too far on a tangent, but some people grow up in areas where, you know, their only way out is that particular sport. So they feel like that's all they have to do. But for me personally, like outside of football, like I enjoy, you know, watching movies, playing video games. So that was kind of my outlet. Like when I wasn't doing my sport, like I can be at home and watch movies and play video games. Like a lot of people don't, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't really have an outlet that they choose to have. Like some people want to really lock in on their sport, which is okay, but it also can mess you up mentally. Because like if you're trying to make it to that top level and then you end up not making it there, then you basically just spent all that time. Not saying it went to waste, but like that's where all your mental space was. So now when you have to find something else to fill that void and give you that same juice that the sport did, it's a lot tougher.
Yeah, it sounds like balance is really kind of the key. Like I think something that I always harp back on, like if you're working a 9-to-5 job, and for student athletes, like you guys have mentioned, even in high school, it's a job, right? So if you're working a 9-to-5 job, I always say it's good to have hobbies and activities outside of your work. You know, a lot of times, you know, some of them can make money, you know, some of them is just volunteering, you know, whatever. But like TaQuon is saying, you know, getting out of, you know, a mental space or having some sort of balance, I think is always good. And, you know, I'm just bringing it to kind of the workspace, you know, arena, because that's something I'm more familiar with than as far as being a student athlete. But I think there are similarities, right? Like, because I don't think you want to always take your work home and always be obsessing and thinking about it, right? You know, I think there's times where you want to walk away and do activities that are good. You know, like playing the Xbox is nothing to do with training, right? Like that gets you out of that headspace and stuff like that. Do you guys have, like, you know, TaQuon mentioned, you know, Xbox and everything like that. Do you, like Jade and Jacqueline, do you have any activities that you did in high school or currently that were able to get you out of, you know, to change your rhythm up, I guess, or just kind of mix things up as far as different activities you could do?
Yeah. Well, before I go into the activities that I do, kind of relating to that is, I think it's a good point, kind of what TaQuon talked about, how you don't want to just have your sport only going home, because at the end of the day, we all are going to eventually be done with our sport. Because I've been talking about that a lot with my roommates, how when it's over, we need to like be more than just an athlete. Like our identity is more than just like, I'm more than just a volleyball player. I'm a sister, a daughter, this, that. So I think that's like really important to have those other activities, and especially learning to have other activities throughout and not just senior year, like, oh, wait, I need to know that I need to do other things besides just volleyball. Because I think a lot of times you get stuck in that identity as like, I'm an athlete, I'm this, I'm that, when you're more than that too. But yeah, some activities like I mentioned kind of earlier, I like to read, or I don't know if this counts as an activity, but I really enjoy hanging out with my friends or my family and kind of like not talking about sports, just talking about anything. I like watching movies, Netflix.
Of course.
But yeah, those are some.
Yeah.
And I like going on walks. I don't know if that counts, but I like going on walks. Getting away from media for a second. Mm-hmm.
Jay, what about you? Anything stick out to you?
Now things do, but in high school, Nick and I went to the same high school, and it kind of was a basketball school. Like I pretty much went there because it was a top basketball school, and it was a long commute. So I'd go to school, go to practice, come home, do homework, eat dinner, go to sleep. So in high school, I really can't think of hobbies that I had. But going into university, my mind was just like open. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's like clubs that you kind of maybe have time to do. And, getting out in the nature and doing walks also, and being close to friends, everyone living close was nice. So in college, I did find more of a release. So that was good.
So tell me this, Jacqueline, since you just mentioned it, how do you feel like you are going to identify your new identity when you are done with volleyball in college? Or what are you doing to help find that identity?
I guess things I'm doing is like trying to figure out who I am fully, which I know I'm not going to discover exactly who I am right now because you're constantly growing and changing. But I'm focusing on like different things I like to do besides volleyball, or like different topics I'm interested in and things like that, to try to figure out exactly what things I like to do, because it kind of was a struggle because I'm so used to like volleyball, school, this, that. And so I've been just like trying to open myself up, or talk to my sister, or listen to podcasts about, I don't know, kind of, I guess, finding yourself, but not really, but like trying to like learn about me besides volleyball, because eventually it's always going to be a part of me, but it's not who I am. I don't know, kind of like what I mentioned, like I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, I'm this. I'm not only a volleyball player, I'm not only an athlete, and that's going to eventually be gone. So I need to figure stuff out right now so that I'm not like, because I feel like a lot of times after you're done with your sport, a lot of athletes struggle with that. Like, who am I now if I'm not this? Like, how am I supposed to, or like, what am I supposed to do without this in my life? But you could find like other people become coaches to keep that in their life, or different aspects like that, or to like maybe do adult leagues to keep the athletic aspect in me. But yeah, I guess I'm still trying to figure out exactly what my identity is, but I'm working towards it too. So I'm not just like, when it's done, I'm not going to be like, what now? I'm trying to like figure stuff out as I go.
No, that's a good thing. And it's also good that, you're having that talk with your roommates, because like you said, I mean, there are a lot of people out there, and I know a lot of them, that, I mean, your identity when you're in school and you're playing that sport, that's what your identity is. Like, people know you as, oh, you're such and such that played this sport here. So it's very important that you definitely try to find something else to be known for besides just someone that's like, oh, I know you because of this. Like, so yeah, it's definitely good that you're working on that, because I'm here to tell you, when you're done and you're done, and I'm not technically done, like I'm still training for football and stuff, and I have some stuff in the works, but like when you're done, like you're going to be like, wow, like what do I do? Like, you're going to have the things that you enjoy, but like, you're going to want to find something that brings you that same fire and juice and energy that volleyball does when you're getting ready to either go to practice or when it's game day, or, that same camaraderie with all your teammates and your friends. Like, it's going to be that stuff right there that's really going to be like, dang, like, I don't know what to do with my time now. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
Jade, do you have any thoughts on that? You mentioned before how sometimes, when it comes to your senior year, you either, after it's over, you either feel like I could go again, or oh man, I'm kind of done. So what kind of advice or feedback would you give to Jacqueline, who's entering this space right now?
Yeah, I mean, and like you mentioned, and like I mentioned, at the end of the season, you feel that way, whether you want to keep going or you are full. But then after it's over, it still hurts. And like, even though I told myself I wasn't going to be upset, I'm like, oof, I finally can breathe. But it still is such an adjustment period. It's like, I'm used to going every day, like hours a day, and training for this. And it was even hard for me to work out afterwards, because I used to work out with the goal of basketball in mind, but now I'm like, well, what am I going to the gym for? Just to exercise? What is that? But for Jacqueline, I mean, just hold on to it and just don't take it for granted. I know everyone says that time flies by, and with COVID, it's like this mix of time going so slow and time going so fast. So I mean, all you can do is give it your all and find the things that make you happy. And the senior year was one of my happiest years, just because the people around me, and maybe it's because I knew it was like almost over, but who knows? I don't know. But I'm grateful. Basketball has brought me so many things. And like you guys are mentioning, it brought me my passion. Like I would have never known that I had this passion for international cultures until we went on a basketball trip out of the country. So I'm so forever grateful for that. And met my husband because of basketball. So good things come. So yeah. Overall, I'm grateful. I know, like, looking back, sometimes maybe you have a negative vision of things looking back, but maybe it wasn't all that bad, but,
Just maybe.
Yeah.
Well, before we move on, does anyone have any final remarks before we move on to my topic? No? Okay. So my topic is finding a job / career during COVID-19. A lot of COVID-19 talk today. This is good. I think someone who recently graduated, I graduated in 2018 from school with the communications degree. So I think it's already difficult to find a job. And, of course, I've been working, throughout those 2 years. Not like I haven't had a job in 2 years, but I think it's been 10x, I think, since the coronavirus has started, because there's been the period of people aren't always hiring, and then going through different avenues. And then for the four of us, we're still building our resume and in our careers. And, whether you're going to continue your athletics or, you're going to be teaching or whatever you plan on doing, it's getting your foot in the door. And sometimes it can be difficult. And I think my frustration is what I wanted to talk about today is just like, I feel like you apply, and your resume is not being seen by anybody, right? So it's like that old adage, like networking is king, right? So like networking is so important. I wish I did it more, my earlier years of college. My sister is actually a freshman at Auburn right now. She's on the color guard team. So I'm telling her, I'm like, you better, network now, because, by the time you're a senior, you just want to be able to have that base. Or when you graduate, you want to continue, like, never stop. Like, to me, it just never stops. And you want to continue to build that brand. Like the four of us have all connected, right? I think that's good. And when things come up, you can help each other out. And it can be a little frustrating, or you kind of question what you may have done while in high school or college, or, whether you were in athletics or not. And you're like, did I do enough? Did I stick it out enough? But truly, we're all like I said, we're all in our early to mid 20s, right? We're all super, super young and have so much more to offer and give, and our careers are just beginning. But sometimes, to be honest, it doesn't always feel that way, right? Like sometimes you get rejected or you don't hear anything for any job, right? And it just can be a little frustrating. But I'm sure you guys have experienced that in some way, shape, or form, or have started a job that you didn't think you'd like and you ended up liking. But, I just kind of wanted to bring that attention, because I know a lot of people are struggling with that. And I think my advice, I guess, to myself, oddly, would be like, network and try to do your best. But it can be hard, but everybody is struggling with it too.
Yeah, I've been, I recently, this past year, was teaching online English.
Right.
As being in a foreign country, I don't know the language yet all the way, and so that was an easy thing to do. But now I'm ready to jump in the workforce.
Right.
I have been looking for English speaking jobs, and man, like this is something. Having to apply to so many jobs and then like change your cover letter, change your resume, really try to sell yourself. And then networking, man, that is such a big thing that like I didn't know was so important.
Right.
And I feel like I'm jumping on the LinkedIn train late. So man, there's so many things I wish I would have done and known in my college days. I wish I would have somehow known what field I wanted to get in more specifically, done an internship, went to those kind of like employers and just talk and stuff. And I don't know. And then, so sometimes I've been asking people like, hey, if you have any leads on English speaking jobs here, like, let me know. And they sometimes remind me like, oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's super hard now with COVID. I'm like, oh snap, I forgot about that, let alone my 1 year of experience and bachelor's degree. And, you know, it's hard coming out of college and not having experience because we're athletes and maybe you don't get to do an internship or you didn't get to work while you're in school because full time. But so it's just something it's a whole beast of itself. I'm learning.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. But like you both have touched on, the connections part is, I mean, it's huge just because it's literally all about who you know. Like if anyone tells you anything different, then they've bumped your head. Yeah, it's literally about who you know. And I think Georgia Tech did a decent job of putting us in certain situations to be successful. I'm not going to say they did a great job, but they did a decent job of doing that. And I mean, Georgia Tech is a huge like connection pool, honestly. Like I could go all the way to the West Coast and say something about Georgia Tech, and they'd be like, "Oh, you went to Georgia Tech?" Like people know the name Georgia Tech
for sure.
So I honestly tried to do the best I could using my connections, and then also, I mean, being a starting quarterback at a Power 5 school, that only helped. Like it helped me tremendously. And I mean, I've met so many people, and I'm still doing the same thing. I try to always meet new people and find different connections because you just never know, like, who knows who. And, like, just that one connection could branch you out to 10 different people to help you out in whatever you may be needing. So, Jacqueline, my advice to you, you're a senior. Meet everyone you possibly can. It doesn't matter who they are, where they're from, because I can guarantee you, out of however many people you meet, they will know 5 to 10 other people that can point you in the direction to get you to where you possibly want to go or where you're trying to go. I can almost 100% guarantee that that's how it's going to work. Now, I'm not saying that you can't go on LinkedIn and put your resume up and find you a job or whatever the case may be. You can, but it's definitely a lot easier when you have someone to put a bug in someone's ear and be like, oh, I know this person. Hey, here's their resume. Like
and can speak of their character, because that's something that you don't see on the resume. And unfortunately, sorry, a little rant here. Unfortunately, I think I have this great personality. Like if I got the chance to have an interview, I feel like I'd sell it. But sometimes you can't get through the door with the resume because it looks like everyone else's. And as much as people say, like in the career office, it's like, oh, since you're an athlete, it'll look so good on your resume. Hasn't helped me yet. So
there's also like all those buzzwords that, you know, like there's like that looks, not even a person looks at the first batch of resumes too. So you have to have certain words for them to pull your resume, even to maybe get an interview. And like Jade is saying, like, you're very personable. Everyone here is, you know, very personable, very good with people, right? So it's not like you just need the opportunity sometimes. So like TaQuon is saying, like, just getting that network, having that bug in the ear, like makes all the difference in the world, right? Like I had a friend who they reached out to someone, you know, at a, you know, organization that they, you know, were kind of interested in. And the next day they were sitting an interview for that company, right? So it's like things can happen quickly. They just have to know who you are. And sometimes it can be, you know, the reason why I wanted to bring it up is it can be frustrating. It can be difficult, but I think LinkedIn, like Jay was saying, is a phenomenal tool to use to connect people. And the other thing is, like, during COVID-19, like, I know not everyone is in hiatus anymore, but I think it's still a great time to capitalize on that stuff and say, hey, do you mind if, I've done it a couple of times too. Like, do you mind if we, jump on a call and, and I can pick your ear for 15, 20 minutes? I mean, that'll be great. And those are some of the things that I've learned. I always thought networking was important, but I think even more so, like, it can be hard and frustrating, but, I think staying positive and then just trying to network as much as possible.
I think we're in a time now where you can be a little bit more patient just because of everything that's going on. Like, like I've talked to a lot of people, and right now companies are letting more people go than they're bringing in. So it's like getting a job now. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's pretty dang hard to get one. Like, you definitely got to know somebody that knows somebody that can get you a foot in the door. So, I mean, I think right now is a time where, everyone's always in a rush to get a job. I need to get a job. But I think this is a time now where you can really be a little bit more patient. Like, you don't have to feel like you're in a rush to get your life moving forward.
Hey, Jacqueline, do you have anything to add?
I guess.
Well, I'll kind of talk for a while.
I guess I'm not necessarily there yet, but especially now with what I mentioned earlier, the 6-year thing, like, the new way I could go is do another season or find a job. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
So, but listening to you guys has actually helped me, because connections and things for the future when I am at that point where I'm looking for a job, which could be like right now if I don't choose the 6th route, or could be right next year. I don't know. But yeah, with the COVID, it is making the economy really hard. So that's why it would be beneficial, I think, for me to try to get my master's right now if I have the chance to, and then maybe go into the work field and look for that. But yeah, I guess that's where I'm at.
That's so
cool. In here.
A lot of, like, in the position you're in, a lot of people will tell you, like, oh, well, you need to do this. You need to do, like, you honestly have time. Like, there was a point in time where, like, obviously as I was from a little kid, I wanted to play at the highest level, and that's what I'm still training to do. And there was a time where I was like, well, maybe, I should hang up my cleats and get me a job. And at the time, I'm like, okay, I can easily find a job. I have a mentor that could help me out and put me in a position who he knows a bunch of people in Atlanta in the field that I wanted to work in. He's like, well, all you have to do is let me know. If you're ready to hang him up, then I can put you in front of people. And all you have to do is do the rest of the work to land you wherever you want to be. And then I just had the conversation with my parents, and I talked with my dad, and I'm like, well, I have this opportunity where I can go and get me a job and kind of get out on my own and do things that I've been wanting to do. And then he just made me realize, he was like, look, you're 23 years old. He was like, you have the rest of your life to work a 9 to 5. He's like, you can work a 9 to 5 the rest of your life. He's like, right now you should just really chase what you want to do. Like, and I'm not knocking if you want to get a 9 to 5 when you get out of school, like, for sure. Go for it. Like, but I just want you to remember, since you're in a position where you have an opportunity to either get your master's or play another year, or, whatever the case is for you, just remember that you're not in any type of rush. Like, you have plenty of time. What are you, 20? You're 21, 22?
22.
Yeah, 22. So, like, you have plenty of time. Like, you have plenty of time to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life, whether that be, coaching or whatever your major is, doing something in that field, playing overseas like your sister has, whatever the case may be. You have plenty of time to decide what you want to do until you're, whatever the case may be, 50 or, have time. Don't feel like you're in a rush. And like I said, like, I feel like this is the time where you can be a lot more patient with COVID. Like, COVID was a time, like, a lot of people don't really want to mention it, but COVID was a time where we all got to self-reflect and kind of see where we are in life. And and just get a different perspective on things going on around us. And it actually gave us the opportunity to slow down, because I don't know about you guys, but I feel like every day is just, it's all so, like, everything happens so fast, and you don't really get to take time to reflect and, you know, actually enjoy and be in the moment. We're always looking ahead, or see what we can do tomorrow, or what we're going to do next week, or, you know, things like that. So I think this is a perfect time to be patient.
Well, it sounds like, you know, we kind of wrapped up this topic. I just want to say thank you guys so much for taking the time and having this conversation. You guys all did an excellent job bringing your own topics and then talking on, you know, other people's topics as well. So that's going to wrap it up for us today. You know, again, this is Nick Rodriguez, Jacqueline Askin. We had TaQuon Marshall as well, and Jade Davis, of course. So to check out any more episodes of the Roundtable, you can go to nickrodriguezpodcast.com and check us out. Thank you guys so much.